So it's been a while since I've been in my 30s. And I don't know if it is a factor of my age or is it just the effect of being in North America that consumerism has just overtaken me. Like, I am all about getting my dopamine from buying shit. I've realized that. It's
Yeah.
either the gym or I'm buying stuff. And you know this about me. I love decorating my home. I love making any space look pretty. That's it's something that I've always enjoyed, but now that I make my own cash and I don't need to go to my parents for
Mm.
permission, it's like a bit out of control.
Yeah.
Um, do you think it's the same for you? And do you think it's a North American thing or is it just an age thing?
I do think so. I think you're right about the whole idea of actually earning your own money and feeling comfortable enough to do what you want with it. I don't know about you, but I was never the kid who really asked my parents for stuff a whole
Yeah.
lot. Like, I would ask them for things if I really needed it. But for example, I had the same backpack right from, I want to say, the second or third grade up till like eighth or ninth grade. And because it was a utility thing. It worked. Would I have
Yeah.
wanted another backpack that was maybe better or
Cooler?
nicer? Sure, yeah, sure, like a cooler backpack. But I never felt the need, or I was not the kid who was going to ask. But I had friends and other people who I knew who maybe had
Yeah.
a new backpack every other year or whatever. But I always knew that once somehow the story for myself was like once I'm going to make money, once I have a job, I'll buy what I want. I don't answer to anyone. I don't justify it to anybody else if I want it.
What age is this thought first occurred to you that, oh, one day I'll make my own money, I won't have to ask anyone for it?
The first time I maybe felt it was when I remember being about 10 when I lived in Australia for a bit, and I remember uh, going to the toy store, and at the time the PlayStation 2 had just come out.
Yeah.
And I remember it was even then it was expensive, two
Yeah.
hundred dollars, $250, whatever it was. And we were in Australia briefly. My parents were working, but at the same time, it was an expensive thing. And
Sure.
I just remember asking them for it and saying like, I really want that PlayStation because there were some kids in school who had one, and it looked like fun. But my mom or my dad, one of them, they just said like, no, it's too expensive. Like it's not something you need right now. And for some reason, that specific memory stuck with me. So, uh, and I remember just thinking, yeah, okay, I agree. It's not something I need. It was just something I wanted.
Yeah.
But cut to when I moved to the States, and I must have been in my early 20s when I got my
Yeah.
first job. I remember with not my first paycheck, but one of my first few paychecks, I went and bought a big TV. Like this was on a Black Friday sale and a PlayStation. I didn't have furniture in my apartment really,
But you got
but
the PlayStation.
I had the
Yeah.
TV and the PlayStation, and it was one of those things that I was so excited to buy because I felt like I had completed that journey. It sounds really weird to say out loud, but for me that was me checking off something that I'd promised myself I would do when I was 10
Yeah.
years old. So it meant
Yeah.
more to me. Yeah, consumerism, you could say, yeah, I went and bought something, but it was more why I bought that thing and the meaning behind it that somehow it still sticks with me
It's
today.
it's funny, but I was actually reading up on it and trying to understand my own obsession, and it said that I don't know which article was this, but if you speak to a lot of psychologists, it's like if you weren't the kid who always asked for stuff growing up, or you were hesitant, then all of that unleashes when you're an adult.
Mhm.
And I feel like with me at least, I never felt like I was told no.
Mhm.
I was never, my parents never told no, but at the same time, I was, even as a child who was in the first grade or second grade, very aware of our economical situation. We grew up middle class.
Right.
very comfortable. Dad had a government job, uh, well respected in society, and we lived very comfortably. But could we go and buy both the things I like? No. It was always drilled into my head by my mom that if you like two things, you got to make up your mind which one you like more, because you're only going to get one at one time. And it became so obvious to my parents because there was a time when I remember I went to buy, I think, a backpack. And at that point, I used to love art. And I spotted this art notepad. And I went and told my mom, I don't want the backpack. She's like, but we came here for that. You need it. You wanted it. He's like, no, I don't want that. And she's like, okay, so what is it that you want? Because she knew me. She was like, all right, so this kid has found something else that he wants.
Hmm.
He's too scared to say he wants both. So
Oh,
he wants to swap this one out for the other.
right. You didn't say out loud, I want this instead of that, or I
I
want this
just,
also. You just said, I don't
I
want
don't
this
want the
anymore.
backpack. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was going to, kind of cleverly maneuver my way in a couple of days and go back, be like, hey, we didn't get the backpack, so maybe could I get the notepad?
Right.
So, but we still got the backpack because my mom was like, no, we're going to get it. But I think my mom kind of knew. And I think for that Christmas, she actually got me that notepad. And I was so happy.
Right. And I actually, so I think this is a good starting point for one other thing I wanted to bring up, which was you and I look at stuff. Maybe you've changed your mind on this, but one thing I remember telling you or asking you is when you buy stuff, do you look at, I'm not saying like bad quality things, but when you buy things that you know you're going to use a lot, my understanding is you prefer things that are maybe not as expensive that you know you're going to use, but once you're done with it, you just buy another one and use it for whatever amount of time. For example, let's say the example of the backpack. You bought a backpack, decent
Yeah.
backpack. You know it's your workhorse for everyday stuff. But it's not maybe the highest end. It's not maybe the most expensive, the most durable thing that you bought because those things cost a lot more money. You generally prefer to buy something that is a workhorse that you can use and then toss and then just replace it with the next thing, right?
So I would say that's where the age factor comes in. I think for
Uh,
me, it's been an evolution.
right.
Up until I would say 2 or 3 years ago, it was the way. It's like you buy something what you need.
Mm,
And if, in a couple of years I have to replace it, I'll replace it.
mhm.
Because there were several things that going on in my life. I wasn't settled mentally. I wasn't settled. There wasn't a place I could call home. So for me, holding on to stuff was a liability. I was like, I'm gonna move. I can't carry all of this shit. Might as well buy stuff that I need right now and then throw it off and not feel bad about it.
Right.
Now that I'm settled,
Mhm.
I do think about quality. I do think about paying more, buying lesser stuff, going through my entire closet and being like, I don't need 10 pairs of t shirts. I need one, a really good one, maybe buy two of the same, and then learn how to layer and still be stylish if possible.
Right.
So it's definitely a mental state, but I think it's also an age thing.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I was asking is because I remember we've had this conversation before, and you and I at the time were at different places.
Yes.
Because I do remember feeling that way when I first moved to the States. If you looked at my apartment, if you walked into my apartment and you saw the furniture in there, you'd think a serial killer lived in there because it was
Yeah.
literally the folding chairs from Walmart with one of those collapsible
Yeah.
tables. And, the kitchen was basically whatever utensils I had brought from India and a few extra plates I might have purchased at Walmart. But that was where I was because I knew I'm not going to be in this apartment forever. I don't want to have to pack up 100 different things and a nice couch and whatever to the next place. I moved to the next apartment. Slowly, my furniture starts evolving and starts getting better.
Yeah.
And it was also influenced with at the time if you're trying to be social and you are trying to date or meet people or even have friends over, it's a totally different vibe when you've got two folding chairs and a table.
The thing is, for us, it's also very different. When you're an immigrant, I think you at least have an excuse that you're still trying to figure shit out. You have a
Yeah,
lot going on at the same time. You're on a visa. You're trying to figure out your work permits. You don't even know if you're going to stay at that job. It's a lot of uncertainty.
sure.
Um, you lose your visa and they say that they can't give you the H-1B or the green card. You're out in 90 days,
Mhm.
right? So that's always at the back of your head. Um, but even so, I know people who are our age and citizens, American or Canadian, and they still live like that. So I think people mature differently. It's also about priority. I prioritize home, always have. Even back home, even here, it's like I'll try and make it cozy. It's just my thing,
Mhm.
right? For you, it could be something else.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I've been buying a lot of stuff. I think every time I've spoken to you in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, this is new, and this is new, and that is new, and it makes me so happy. But I'm like, is there a bigger issue going on? Is there other issues in my life that I'm trying to run away from? Or is it just consumerism in North America is finally getting to me? Or is it that I'm just getting to that age and that point in my life where is craving to make a home? It's just
Yeah.
so many different things, and I just figured what it is for you.
As far as the buying things and getting that satisfaction, I do feel that, but I don't feel it with the little knick-knacky things, which I know people who do. Like if I go on a trip, I
Yeah,
know people who go on the trip and they'll buy this, that, and the other. They'll go to one of those little shops which has, the little jewelry and all those things.
the trinkets and
Exactly. And
memorabilia and stuff.
yeah, and I don't I don't personally do that, but I obviously those shops exist for a reason. There's people who go there. For me, it's more I really wanted a guitar, so I know this thing's gonna cost me
Yeah.
a bit of money.
Go from $3 to $3,000.
Exactly. So that I'm playing at a different scale, but I also understand that
Good
I'm not
luck.
going to buy a guitar every month or every other month. It's going to be
Yeah,
my 1 year
yeah,
purchase. And I'd rather spend in bulk on something that's quality versus
yeah.
getting those little hits of dopamine with the little purchases. Not to say that I don't do that. And honestly, having an Amazon Prime account is the worst thing
Oh
you can
my
do
god. Oh, tell me
if
about
you're
that.
trying to
Is
avoid
another
that.
problem. Oh,
Yeah, if you're trying to avoid consumerism in any level, you need to sign off from Amazon Prime because the day that becomes part of something you have on your phone or just in your life, it's just so convenient. Anything and everything is available
that
the next day.
satisfaction of just ordering stuff and having it delivered to your house
Yeah,
is just so addictive.
right, right.
But I will say that I do focus on quality a lot more. Even with home decor stuff, initially when I was setting up the apartment, I just bought art online, printed it off at Staples, put it up in an IKEA frame, and that was that. It still costs money, like $60, $70 a painting, whatever. Now I'm like, I don't want like 10 of them. I'm just gonna buy one, like a proper good oil painting, and put it up. Is
Mhm.
it more expensive? Yeah, but it's just one.
It's I really like the way Ramit Sethi, and I know we've talked about him before, but Ramit Sethi talks about people having money dials,
Yeah,
and the idea being that we're all given a certain number of dials that we can spend our money on. So you can turn up these dials to different levels. The problem becomes when your travel dial, which is the expenses for travel, are at 100. Your food dial, like I like eating out, that's at 100. I want to live in the nicest apartment, that's at 100. That's when people go broke. The idea is you can only pick one or two things and you spend extravagantly there. If travel is your main game,
yeah.
save up and spend, like, have the best vacation ever. Stay at the nicest hotels. But you can't turn around and be like, I want that and I also want to eat out every other day. Because that's you're gonna go broke then. And that's what I think comes to bite people in the butt with consumerism or buying stuff online.